Hello, I'm Steve.
And I'm Lee.
And welcome to Game and Chat,
the VG Batsu podcast.
And today we're going to celebrate E3 2016 because it's just been and gone, and it's left an impression on us, I'd say.
Indeed it has.
Both good and bad.
Yep, mostly good though.
Mostly good. It's been a good one. It's not been a surprising E3, which I guess is because we were spoiled last year with just surprise after surprise with Shenmue followed by Final Fantasy and The Last Guardian being alive and all that sort of thing. It was never going to hit those highs. And last year Nintendo had a conference, and this year they kind of just dicked about playing Zelda, which is fine, and we'll get to that. But overall, I'd say not as good as last year's E3, but still a stonking good time.
Yeah,
I think
still a good one.
Less surprises, but a lot of good stuff. Not many companies announcing like games that I have zero interest in this year. Certainly from the big three, like Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. Everything they showed was kind of something that I at least had some interest in.
Yeah.
So I guess we just crack on and talk about what we saw. Who should we start with? Sony?
Yeah, let's go with Sony.
Were they the first of the big three? No, it was Microsoft
they were last.
first, wasn't it?
Well, second to last. Oh, they're in the middle. I keep forgetting Nintendo because they didn't do a conference.
Well, let's go Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, because that's the order we kind of saw them in.
Yeah, let's do that.
So Microsoft, they started off with the Xbox One S, and everyone kind of saw this coming. A slim Xbox was bound to happen, and might I say, if you listen to our previous podcast of our expectations, I totally called a slim Xbox this year. And it happened. A slim Xbox is coming, but it does have improvements. It is 4K ready in terms of upscaling and video, but not 4K for gaming, just will upscale to 4K. And massively smaller, the size the Xbox One should have been. And it doesn't have a power brick anymore. It's basically the size of a PS4 now, and doesn't have a power brick like the PS4, but in a step up from PS4 can handle 4K content. Now, I think it's kind of smart because previously I've just got a 4K TV, you've got a 4K TV.
Yep. Previously,
if I'm buying an all-format game, I'm going to buy it on PS4 because it tends to look a bit better. Technically, the PS4 is a little superior, but now, if this upscales nicely to 4K and a game comes out on both, I'm going to be more inclined to buy it on Xbox because I have a 4K TV, so it will look nicer on the Xbox than it would on the PlayStation.
Yeah, but it'll also set you back £300 for the privilege.
Well, this is the thing. We're already going to buy a second Xbox to have in the house because me and Charlotte want to play Xbox together. So I guess that's not too bad. If you're either like me and we're already going to upgrade so you can have another one for two players, or if you haven't stepped up to Xbox One yet and have been thinking about it, I think the Xbox One S is a fairly decent investment. Now, it gets a little stranger when we get to the Scorpio later, and I'll explain why it gets weirder, I guess, when we get there.
Should we go straight onto that? Flow on and then talk about games?
Yeah, okay. Now, the Scorpio is a strange one because they said, although we've announced the S, we are also announcing a massively better Xbox next year, which is odd. How do you feel about
it? I guess I can see why they're doing it. Like trying to bring PC to the living room?
Yeah,
sort of
that's
thing?
my thing. Now, Phil Spencer a while ago on record said that he was interested in an upgradable Xbox, and I've got a feeling that's what the Scorpio is going to be. Like, you're going to be able to log onto the Microsoft Store and buy Xbox graphic card 2, and it will improve it. So it'll be like a PC that you don't have to mess around with specs or have to have any prior knowledge of anything. It'll just be a case of it's upgradable, and Microsoft hand you the upgrades, and you can choose to upgrade whenever you like.
I'd like to think they'd be family-proof as well, because you're going to get people who are obviously not into PC modding getting one in their living room, so if they open it up and then not know what is the graphics card...
I would be surprised if it wasn't just all cartridge looking inside. Like, there's a bit that says Xbox graphics card, and you pull that out.
They'll probably have a little, like, you know how the Slim 360 had a pull thing for the hard drive?
Yeah, that sort of thing.
So you just press the side and then the card comes out.
That would be... Like, even the lid could maybe just pop off, and just take things out. But my main concern with the Scorpio isn't that they've already announced a new Xbox. Like, the S actually seems like such a good idea because, the biggest problem with the Xbox is, 1, it's massive, and 2, it's already kind of outdated. And the S kind of fixed that by going, well, this one's at least going to upscale into 4K, and as a media player, it's now better than the PlayStation. But then they kind of went, but if you do want a better one, hold off. But they didn't announce a price for the Scorpio, and that's where it's going to be interesting, because I think they could easily charge $800 to $900 for that thing, because it's competing with a high-end PC, and those who really want a high-end PC in the living room will be happy to pay that. I'm not into my video games enough to be happy to pay that to play video games, and I love video games, but it's never been all about the graphics or the power for me. So I'm not too interested in a powerful PC in my living room. I just want a box that plays games. And the Xbox One already does that.
And the only other thing with that is, for those people that it is sort of targeting at, that want a PC in their living room,
Possibly
surely
already have one.
would just take their tower into their living room and HDMI up the telly.
Yeah, pretty much. There's got to be people already doing what they're proposing the Xbox One Scorpio is going to do. But yeah, it's an odd one. It's interesting, and more interesting that they decided to go, oh, it's coming out next year, when they've just announced a machine, which has got to have affected the sales. It simply has to have affected the sales of it. But yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what way that goes.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. Maybe they're not putting as much money into the S. They've just sort of made it rather than trying to make it as the next big thing. Just like how I wouldn't be surprised, if they actually discontinue the Xbox One.
Oh, they are. I think the S is taking over like the Slimline 360 did back in the day. What I didn't realise is the 2TB model they showed at E3 is a launch edition. You can only get that 2TB one if you buy it day one.
Oh.
It's not, the regular models are 500 gig and 1TB, but if you want the 2TB, you got to buy it straight away. However,
surely you can just open it and pop in a new hard drive.
You cannot.
Oh.
But Xbox One is compatible with external hard drives, so it doesn't really matter the size of the damn thing. It's probably going to work out cheaper to buy the $250 one, which is 500 gig, and then just buy a really big hard drive, which will be cheaper than the price between the two models.
Probably, yeah. You can get like 2 terabytes now for like 50 quid.
Exactly.
Like that.
Yeah. I mean, even we were in a game today, and the brand new 4TB Xbox branded hard drives were only 110 quid. So, it's not going to be huge saving if you go for the 2TB. I think it's just if you want that there in the box, no add-ons, it's there available for you. Now, the big omission from E3 for me, and I'm going to talk about it just because it links to the Scorpio, is that they did not show Crackdown for Microsoft
No,
at
they
all.
didn't, did they?
And the fact...
Well, they showed it in their little montage at the end.
The same footage we saw last year. I think something's wrong with Crackdown, and it would not surprise me, and I hope I'm wrong, it would not surprise me if it's only coming to the Scorpio. Like, they haven't been able to make happen what they thought they were going to be able to make happen, and...
They need the extra
processing power. Which would be...
some of those teraflops.
A few more teraflops to get it going. But anyway, this is rumour. We don't know. I'd imagine Crackdown is popular enough that they'll try and get it out on the current Xbox One. Enough people must want it. But it would not surprise me. But let's go away from the rumours, away from the hardware, because none of it's out. The Xbox One S isn't really worth discussing. It's just a new, better Xbox One. There's nothing feature-packed there. Let's go talk about the games. That's what's important.
Yeah, lovely games.
Oh, what about, this is before we get to the games, because it counts to the games. Microsoft's big thing at E3 is the Play Anywhere thing. What do you think about that?
See, Play Anywhere, for me, I think it's the wrong name. Because you know how Nintendo do cross-buy?
Yes, and Sony do.
This Play Anywhere is essentially just cross-buy. It's not Play Anywhere, is it really?
No, it's Play Anywhere if you've got a powerful Windows 10 laptop and you take it everywhere.
An Alienware.
I guess technically you can play anywhere. So, I don't know. I like the idea. A lot of people...
It's good, yeah, because that's the one thing that not frustrates me, but is a little annoyance of mine with Nintendo, that if you buy something on one, you don't always necessarily get it on both.
You hardly ever do. I think Ollie Ollie was the game that let you do that. But I think the thing for me with the cross-buy, or whatever the hell they're going to call it, is just simply it's going to upset people. You know when... what's the Alan Wake game that just came out called? It's not Alan Wake, but it's by those guys. Quantum Break.
Oh, yeah.
That pissed a lot of people off, because if you bought it on Xbox, you got it on PC, and they promised it as an Xbox game, and then a lot of people were like, well, why would I buy an Xbox? Because I've got a PC, and you've just released it. Basically, people thought it made the Xbox null and void, and I can see those people's arguments, but for me, it doesn't make the Xbox null and void. I'm never going to have a powerful PC.
Yeah,
I can't be bothered with the upkeep. And
not everyone has the money and the expense for, because not only do you need a high-end PC, you also then need either one or multiple high-end monitors to get the benefit from it.
And I'm just not a PC guy. I've always played video games as a box you slap under the TV and buy games on. That's always been the way I've done it. I used to have a PC back when I was younger, and then just once consoles kind of... I know they haven't caught up as in top spec, but once they got to the level where we're getting the same games PC get, I never kind of went back to PC. But I like the idea. I don't know how useful it really is, because I think if you've got an Xbox One, you're probably buying the games to play it on that. If you've got Windows 10, you're probably buying the games to play it on that. I can't imagine many people going, I desperately want to play more of Halo 5, but I'm not at my Xbox. Like, surely it's just... for me, it's solving a problem that doesn't necessarily exist.
Yeah.
But I get it, and I like it as a sort of theory from Microsoft of, well, you can play it on whenever you want. It's yours. So, it's good. It's okay.
Out of all the things you can get cross-buy on, though, the Xbox and PC is the least functional, because if you've got PlayStation or Vita, one's handheld.
Yeah.
Wii U or DS, one's handheld.
And not many laptops are going to be... I mean, some will be as high-spec as a Xbox easily, but...
You can't just, like, get on a crowded bus, whip out your laptop and start playing...
But let's just talk... well, exactly. But let's just talk Johnny Public here, who's gone to Argos and bought himself a laptop for browsing the internet. It's not going to play games the same level as an Xbox. So, for most people, it's not going to be the same thing. I don't know. I think it's a nice idea, but I don't necessarily think it was needed. It's certainly not as good as last year when they announced backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
Like, that was a thing that helped Xbox owners. This kind of just feels almost like Microsoft are trying to go, well, how else can we make it good for people? Give them something else.
It's just because they can, I think,
that's
isn't it?
It's more, it sounds good, but I don't necessarily think it's actually necessary. But anyway, now we shall talk about the games.
Some games.
This is where it's good. There was some good stuff from Microsoft this year. Nothing surprising, partially because everything at E3 seemed to leak this year except for Sony's conference.
Yeah.
So we'll just go through them in the order we've got them down here.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with Gears of War 4.
Gears of War 4.
Gears of 4. How do you feel about Gears of War? You a fan?
I am a fan.
Have you played all three of the others?
I have not played all three.
Oh, where did you get to?
I think in 360 days I got halfway through 2, maybe close to the end of 2.
Yeah.
But since Microsoft had been extremely lovely and said anyone who bought the new remake of 1 got the 2 and the 3, and
They got all the series, didn't they?
So they're now all downloaded on my Xbox, just sat waiting for me to get some time from Fallout to move on and start playing them.
It only took me 6 angry emails to Microsoft to get those games because they never turned up on my Xbox.
I got mine the day after.
Yeah, and I played mine before you. But anyway, Gears of War 4, it looks like Gears of War. I think anyone expecting anything different would, well, one, be stupid because it was bound to just be Gears of War again.
Is it a prequel? Is it set in a different time?
It's after.
After.
The trailer has old Marcus Phoenix in it, remember?
So is this when their steroids have worn off? Because everyone seems a lot less buff in that trailer.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is, but it's a weird change in direction because Gears of War was so disproportionately huge when it came to men that it seemed odd that this time they've gone, no, normal-sized people.
Yeah.
To the point that you've got a really skinny girl running around with that armour on. Just felt a bit odd. Make her buff.
Yeah, buff woman.
Yeah, no one would be upset if she was buff. Looks like she should be buff. More buff. That's what I'm saying here.
Less sexy, more buff.
Exactly. But I thought it looked really good, Gears of War 4. I'm a fan of Gears of War. It's almost become a guilty pleasure now because it's one of those games that, all 3 of them were exactly the same. But I am up for a 4th one.
They're entertaining though, aren't they?
Yeah, they're dumb. They're fun. It looked good. There's not really much you can say about it other than it looked like Gears of War. And I think those who like the series are going to be happy it's back. Those who didn't, well, maybe one of these other games will appeal to you.
I wonder if they'll have a Horde mode in there still.
They did. They announced it. Were you not watching the screen? Horde 3.0 got announced. A brand new Horde mode.
See, anyone who's listened to our previous podcasts will know I have a memory of a sieve. So,
right, let's move on. Forza Horizon 3. Now, I'm not a Forza fan.
I quite like Forza.
I don't like driving the car unless it is a small go-kart car driven by a little Italian man. That's about as far as my driving games go. Or Ridge Race. Basically, if I can drive sideways or throw weapons, I'm probably in. If you make me drive the real car on a real road, I'm not too bothered. But this didn't look like drive a car on a real road. It looked like Burnout Paradise. It looked dumb, and I mean that in a really good way.
And drive anywhere as well. So you could drive like a top-end sports car on a beach.
Yes.
Where in real world it would just get stuck.
Now, I played the demo of Horizon 2, and I had a good time with it. For those who didn't pick that up on the microphone, Lee just broke wind. Just for you.
Just snuck out there.
So excited by Forza Horizon 3. But yeah, I played Forza Horizon 2's demo, and that was fun. It was, again, you could kind of go anywhere, drive where you wanted, but this looked stupider, and I mean that positively.
Yeah.
Like, it looked like it was all about just well, the same vibe you get from things like Burnout Paradise, just driving around fast, scoring points, and being like an arcade racer. I think it looked really good.
Certainly does. I mean, I enjoy racing games,
Mm-hmm.
and I use the term enjoy loosely because they do get quite dull after a bit.
I find that.
However, the sillier they get, the more I like them.
Yes, yeah, well, I've just downloaded...
It's just the same as you, so...
I've just downloaded The Crew for Xbox One because it's one of the games of gold
I need
this
to get
month.
some gold.
Well, I played a bit of it. It's very Ubisoft, and I'm assuming we'll get to what very Ubisoft means shortly, but it is quite good because it's arcadey, very arcadey. But yeah, I'm not going to buy it straight away, Forza Horizon 3, but it's certainly one at 25 quid, and maybe I'll take the leap.
It is the sort of game, like, just judging from past Forza games, after the hype's been round, it does sort of lose its value a bit.
They barrel off quick, don't they? Yeah, I remember last Christmas, Forza came out October or November, and by Christmas it had hit 20 quid.
And it was free with most Xbox bundles.
Yeah, so I'll do the same this Christmas. I'll see if it hits that £20 price, and if it does, I think this is one I'd be interested in. Okay, next, Sea of Thieves. Now, Sea of Thieves is the new game by Rareware.
Caught us by surprise.
Yeah, well, we had discussed prior to watching E3 that none of us really knew what Sea of Thieves was, other than the name, and it was a pirate game by Rareware. And even after seeing the trailers this year, I still couldn't tell you what you do in Sea of Thieves, or what the aim of the game is. But I am now really looking forward to Sea of Thieves, because it just looked like... I'm going to use this word a lot for Microsoft Conference, I think. It looked like dumb fun. It just looked really silly, really like a mess around co-op game. Like, there didn't seem too much aim in what was going on, but the idea of having to like sort of navigate this big ship where the person steering it can't see over the sails, and one person is in the bottom trying to stop the place from flooding and boarding up the windows. I just think it looked great. I'm really surprised by it. What do you think of it?
I quite liked it, to be honest. I mean, I was as shocked as you because I hadn't really known much of it prior to seeing the demo of it.
Yeah.
But after seeing it, it's a bit like, what's going on? Like, why is there? And then you sort of piece it together, like, oh, there's 4 people per ship, lots of ships.
The ships have come across each other.
They seem to be landing on islands, pillaging treasure. Then I think someone got under attack, and then you run back to the ship.
Yeah.
You can potentially leave people behind if you want,
which is excellent.
Which is going to be me.
One of the things that made me excited was I read a bit of the hands-on stuff from people playing it at E3, and apparently there are smaller ships that, say, take 2 people, and there was 2 sets of these smaller ships of people on opposite sides of the show floor who didn't know each other. And then a big ship came through, and they just teamed up and just sort of took over this big ship, and then, without knowing who each other was or without any communication, became a crew and took over this big ship and then worked together on the big ship. And I just think that sounds really good. That idea of just co-op pirate nonsense, I think could be really good fun.
Is it MMO style?
They've said it's not an MMO.
So it's not MMO, it's just a like
but I do believe
sort of style.
No, I think there is an open world to it, but I don't think it's like one big continuous server. I think you'll be joined on a server with other people, and remember how Burnout Paradise, you join a game and there were, say, 20 of you in the server. I reckon it could be that. So you join a world of Sea of Thieves and there are 30 pirates, and then
you just have to build up your rankings.
Yeah,
throughout.
They haven't really announced what you do, but they've said it isn't just going to be sailing about the place. There will be missions and stuff you can take on, but you never have to. You can just roleplay a pirate should you wish. And I just think this sounds brilliant.
So as a comparison, it's the No Man's Sky of the pirate world.
Yeah, but with more drinking grog.
Here's a game. We're not going to tell you what you do yet.
But you want it. But yeah, that's the first, certainly for me, the first announcement of E3 where I was fully on board from the trailer. Like, I'm buying that. And, I like Gears of War 4, but it was exactly what I expected from it. This was a bit more surprising, and just, I know that's something I want to play. So I'm hoping it turns out as good as it has the sort of early impressions of. What about yourself? Do you think you're down for a bit of pirate action?
I think I will be, yeah. And I need to. I'm stuck in the world of Fallout 4 at the minute. I'm desperate to just finish that.
I'm just going to come and snap your disc.
Let's download it.
I'm going to come smash your console.
Oh.
Right, moving on. Dead Rising 4.
Dead Rising. I've not played the last one yet.
Well, you've got it.
I've got it.
And I've got it. So you know what would happen if you've got a Fallout and bought some Xbox Live? We could play
it. We could.
It is co-op, and it's very silly. It's a big, daft zombie game. And this looks like a big, daft zombie game at Christmas with the best protagonist from the Dead Rising series.
It looks bigger and dafterer.
It really does. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that this leaked quite early, I would have been really surprised by Dead Rising 4, because Frank West is one of my favourite characters. I'm glad he's back. And as far as I'm concerned, you can't have enough games set at Christmas. And this brings my count to about 3 games that I know of that are set at Christmas, and I'm really excited. I think going back to Willamette Shopping Mall is a great setting. The idea that you can explore outside of the mall and general Willamette just adds more to that world. And yeah, daft Christmas presents, daft weapons, Frank West, co-op, it all adds up to me for another game of E3 that I was 100% on board with just from the trailer.
I did like the look of the trailer. I especially liked the look of the little makeshift go-kart that fires dead zombies around the place.
See, this is why you need to get on 3. These are the sort of... Number 2 and 3 added an aspect where you can create things, and 3 makes you create some brilliantly strange...
I think I saw you playing it when you first got it.
Yeah, it's good.
And you can pretty much just combine anything
any old crap
anything.
into whatever works. But yeah, it's good. I don't think there's much we can say about Dead Rising 4 because it looks very similar to 3, but at Christmas. And I'm on board.
Fun zombie killing action.
Rattling on, the final thing from Microsoft conference, that was the Scorpio, which I guess we have discussed already. So I guess that wraps Microsoft up.
Yeah.
How did you feel about Microsoft this year?
Better than last year.
Now, we got pretty much no predictions right, other than I said there'd be a slim Xbox.
Oh, and there was the cross-network play, which I predicted. Which
they kind of talked about, didn't they? That only for one game.
Well,
Rocket League.
I think they're wanting to introduce it to as many games as possible, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure Microsoft have said pretty much, our network is now open.
Yeah.
Should anyone want to use it?
You can, yeah.
And I'm surprised that Sony haven't gone and been the bigger team and just gone, hey, yeah, we're game with that. Let's have the Microsoft Sony head-to-head matches.
It will happen. It will happen.
I just hope Sony don't go, what is this? Get from under our feet, sort of thing. We're the big dominant company
I hope
now.
they do. Overall, for me, Microsoft this year were a little unsurprising. There wasn't much announced that you wouldn't guess was going to happen. I'm glad Sea of Thieves looks good. I'm glad there's a Dead Rising 4, but we all knew Gears of War 4 was going to look like Gears of War. We all knew there'd be another Forza at some point. It wasn't so surprising. We had heard the rumours and the leaks about hardware come in. So, I don't know. There wasn't enough there for me that made me really excited. And there was no big announcement like the backwards compatibility, where it was a sudden game changer. Like, the cross-console play with the PC and Xbox is nice, but certainly nowhere near as rewarding for your Xbox owners as the backwards compatibility was. But overall,
I'd predicted that they'd announce backwards compatibility for original Xbox.
And then Phil Spencer walked out in his original Xbox logo, had the logo on the screen. It's like, oh, it's going to happen. No. But yeah, it was all right. They did okay. I think out of the 3 big ones this year, well, did Nintendo even count as a big one this year? They didn't do much.
No, Nintendo, for me, let me down. Just a little bit.
They didn't let me down, but only because I expected nothing, because they were just showing Zelda. But, I don't know, I don't think it was as good a conference as Sony, who we'll talk to now. But I think if you're an Xbox fan, there was a lot to be looking forward to. But they didn't talk about Crackdown, so 2 out of 10.
I think that's the general feeling for all the conferences this year. It's like nothing spectacular, nothing not too rubbish, just okay.
See, Sony, who we'll go into now, had a few good surprises, but nothing that blew me away.
Yeah,
but again, we're recovering from last year where it was Final Fantasy VII Remake is happening, Last Guardian is alive, Shenmue 3 is happening. It was like present after present after present last year from Sony. But this year's Sony, let's get straight onto them. They started off pretty strong with God of War. I'm not a God of War fan. What about you?
I did quite like. They were hack and slash, weren't they? The old God of Wars, just like
kind of platform adventure with hack and slash.
And then I think that was when I was going through a phase of absolutely loving Devil May Cry. So they kind of both fell into the same sort of thing for me.
Yeah, if you like your big, over the top, huge boss fights, then yeah, I can see that.
So I kind of like God of War. However, this new direction they've gone in strikes me even more, because I can't see that hack and slash carrying on for much longer.
No, well, this is the thing for me. I had heard rumblings a new God of War was coming, and I've liked God of War 1 and 2. didn't really like 3 so much because it felt like it was retreading more ground. I didn't play the 4th one because of how I felt about 3, and I saw the trailers of it and it was just, yeah, this is the same. I've played this. And then they announced this one and I wasn't excited. And then I went from not caring about it at all to almost certainly buying this video game. It looks so different. And
yeah, much slower paced, but also I think there's still potential for massive bosses in there.
Yeah, but we saw zero hack and slash in this, really. A little bit during the fight, but it felt more measured and calm in the combat. And I don't know, it feels like... I don't like to use the word grown up because I don't think you should say a game is immature, because I like big, stupid games, as I've discussed. But it really felt like they'd learnt from what people were feeling about the series, that it really needed a bit of a sprucing up, and totally gone out of their way to change it, and I think it really looks good.
They hit the nail on the head for rebooting the series.
Yeah, I've not seen a reboot that looked so successful straight away as this. Like, it's the old team as well, which is good. It means that they're choosing to do it differently, not just handing it to someone else and getting someone else's take on it. It's different mythology, 'cause it's Greek mythology now, is it? Oh no, it was Greek mythology, wasn't it? I can't remember what mythology we're on.
It's some form
It's a different
of mythology.
And yeah, I thought it looked good. I thought Kratos having a beard was a step in the right direction.
Yeah,
more beards, please. But yeah, I really liked it. I think if you haven't seen it yet, you should go watch the trailer for it, because even if you don't like God of War, I think it's worth seeing. They've totally changed it.
It's a good. I guess if they're rebooting it as well, it's a good introduction to the series if you've never played the original.
Yeah, it feels like there's going to be story elements that refer to the old ones, but you're not going to be alienated if you haven't played the old ones, which is good, because I've played 2 of the however many there've been now. I've certainly played none of the Vita ones or anything like that. But yeah, nice to see. Moving on, we've got Days Gone, which is the big zombie thing.
They split this in 2, didn't they? So they gave you a
there was
little
a sort of teaser trailer,
which left you, what do you do?
Yeah, and then at the end they went, this is what you do, and just played the thing. I was 100% certain it was Last of Us 2 for a long time.
Totally.
And then as soon as we got more zombie based and we saw the actual gameplay with sort of almost 28 days later movie style zombies, just millions of them and really quick.
It kind of looked like when they're coming out of the trailer from
they're just pouring out.
Is it Brad Pitt film? The DayZ?
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of. Sorry, DayZ.
The way they just sort of make a wall and go everywhere.
See, I really disliked that film because I really thought the zombies in it were rubbish. However, we've never had them in a video game, and that seems the perfect place for that. Just throw millions of fast zombies. And it looked great. I thought it looked really good. I'm not necessarily 100% sold on it yet because we've seen very little, just a very quick glimpse of it. But I love the idea of it.
Yeah.
I think it looked very good.
I think it's going to be sort of, well, like you say, it's going to be very similar to Last of Us, but I think with a lot more
action.
Panic moments where just a horde will come at you, and I think you've got to sort of use your environment to your advantage.
And it looks like, from what they showed, you have to run and fight. You can't do one or the other. Like, you have to run for a bit, get your distance, take a few out so they don't catch up to you, then run again. And
block the way as well, like blow things up.
And then just keep going. I like it. It looked panicky. It looked good. I'm into it. But
as long as there's more ammo in this than there is in
Last of Us. Yeah, you'll need it in this.
You'll need a full arsenal.
This looks like the sort of game where if they limit things like ammo, it's going to become really annoying really quickly. But if you keep that nice balance, if you've always got enough bullets to start fighting, but fighting isn't the best idea, you might have to run, then I think it's going to be really good. But I'll wait to see more of it, but certainly interested in it. And that was one of the surprise announcements, I think, for Sony, because even though God of War looked really different, I did expect there'd be another God of War at some point. But the fact they ended the show with this brand new game is really good.
Do you know who it's by?
Yeah, it's by the guys who did Siphon Filter and stuff, I believe, back in the day.
So it's not by the people who did Last of Us then?
No, it is a different team.
Ah.
So, yeah, interesting. We didn't see anything from Naughty Dog this year, in fact. No, because Last of Us 2 was heavily rumoured. But we didn't see anything from those guys.
Oh, well.
You know, it did look good, but it looked good last year. Horizon.
I'm really, really excited for Horizon.
I still don't know what the whole game is going to be, because all we've seen so far is hunter-gathering with big robot dinosaurs. But that's a concept I'm sold on.
I think, from what I've managed to piece together, it seems like mankind creates technology develops AI becomes self-aware, takes over, and then this is set sort of... I think I gathered that from the first trailer, but then this trailer showed a robot, when she killed it, said it was from it was ancient technology.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder.
But then maybe they did take over, and this is a long time afterwards. So to them, it is ancient technology.
But that's what I mean. Where did that ancient robot come from, and why was it so hard to take down in comparison to some of the newer current technology?
It's going to be interesting to see.
Is there someone building it as a form of defense, or is it just like? Is it hidden? Has the AI split into two groups? Is there an AI that wants to dominate the world, or another one that wants to overthrow them?
We're the monsters, Lee. That's the story here. But I really like the look of it. It looks like Zelda with robot dinosaurs.
It's really hooked my curiosity.
That's not this year, though, right? It's next year. Now, this was the big thing, actually. Sony didn't show much that you could buy this year, and neither did Microsoft. They kind of showed Dead Rising and Forza this year. Dead and Gears of War is this year. So maybe Microsoft did okay. But the big surprise ones like Project Scorpio and the Sea of Thieves and stuff like that are all next year. And it's the same with Sony. God of War is next year. I believe this is next year as well. There was an awful lot of stuff coming next year, but there's still not much on the horizon this year. Like this Christmas seems pretty small.
Unless they're holding things off, is it Gamescom that's coming up?
Yeah,
soon?
they could do.
So maybe they'll announce more things there. I reckon Nintendo might do a direct then as well.
I think we'll get one soon.
Fingers crossed.
Now, not much point dwelling on the next one, but Last Guardian, it finally has a date.
Yeah.
It is out this year, October, so that's one of the few Sony games that is definitely coming this year.
Maybe Sony have thought, well, everyone's waited long enough for Last Guardian, that's the only thing we need to release this year.
Well, they're practically right. Because, I mean, if this turns out to be shit after all this time, I'm going to be devastated, but surely the third game by Team Ico is going to be good. Their other two have been excellent, so...
Let's just hope it doesn't suffer the Duke Nukem syndrome.
It can't. It can't do. Not after this much time. Too much is riding on this.
We all said that about Duke Nukem.
No, we all expected Duke Nukem to be rubbish. Yeah, I'm glad this has got a date. It finally feels real. You can actually pre-order the game now. You can go into the PlayStation Store and pre-buy it. It's a real thing. It's finally coming. I'm just glad to see it's finally getting kicked out the door. You know what? At this point, if it comes out and it's not great, I'm kind of just glad that it got finished. It's nice to see this game that's obviously struggled its way through development. I mean, Christ, it missed its console by a whole generation. This was supposed to be PS3, early PS3, and it didn't happen. So I'm just glad to see it finally coming out. What else did we get? Oh, well, a big surprise from Sony.
Before that, you know what we're missing off there?
What are we missing?
The new Heavy Rain game.
Oh, Detroit.
Let's
have a talk about that.
Was that on the Sony conference?
It was, yeah. Now, we both have different opinions of Heavy Rain.
I bum it. I love it.
I love the game. I hate the story.
I can see what you... When you've pointed it out, I can see what you mean. However...
Spoiler-free, because even though it's an old game, we try to be spoiler-free on the podcast. The ending doesn't wrap up a whole bunch of plot points that it throws at you intentionally just to give you red herrings. So, character A keeps doing action C, which is very strange. But when you get to the ending, action C is never explained as to why this character would do it. You know, it doesn't make sense in a lot of places, and you've got so many characters whose personalities just change like on a flick of a switch, just because it makes sense in terms of them for gameplay, not because it makes sense for story. So they'll go, oh, well, how about this character does this, and it doesn't make sense, and it changes the whole dynamic just for the story, so they can go somewhere with it. But I love the idea of Heavy Rain. Even though I know your actions don't really have a consequence, just slightly different endings with different characters, but the ending is still overall pretty much the same. I love the idea. And the Detroit trailer basically gave me the chubs, because all it showed was how your different ideas could make an impact. And it looked very different. Like you saw all sorts of things happen in that trailer from one sentence, essentially. And I'm excited.
Yeah.
Also,
really like
it looks like Blade Runner, and I'm into that.
I believe I read last night that they're bringing Fahrenheit back.
Yeah, I heard this. Yeah, I mean, it's already back on mobile, isn't it? You can get it on your phone.
But a PS4 release of Fahrenheit would be lovely.
You know what's good about Fahrenheit? The gameplay. Now, you know what sucked about Fahrenheit? The story. This is where I worry about Detroit, because I think the concept is great. I just know the story's probably going to suffer with the exact same problems of, by the end of it, you'll go, wait, why did they do this? And it doesn't make sense.
I don't mind so much. I can overlook those little oversights.
I can in a normal game, but when your game is 99% story, I find it hard. But yeah, I'm excited by it. Maybe foolishly so, because obviously, like I said, what I feel about the other games. But I do think the potential is really high for this. Anything else you want to say about Detroit? It looked great too, actually. It was a really good looking game.
You can tell it's definitely them anyway.
Yeah, it feels
style
like
of it and the way.
And the gummy mouths.
The
look really awkward.
The android that you seem to be playing as has a very aura of the FBI man from Heavy Rain.
Yeah, I thought that.
It seems a bit like his detective abilities and the way he can scan the room.
But it makes sense for him to be able to do it rather than magic glasses.
Hey.
A good explanation.
Hey, Google Glass.
Yeah, it never happened, did it? It got cancelled.
It happened for a bit and then they just stopped.
No, it happened for about
it.
10 posh men who had lots of money. And then Google went, these are rubbish, aren't they? And stopped.
I do believe, though, they're bringing Google Glass 2.0.
Well, if it looks like the Scouters from Dragon Ball Z, I'll be in. But otherwise... Alright, let's move on to a game that I'm happy to see back.
I'm also happy to see back.
Even though we saw none of the game.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Crash Bandicoot 1 to 3, remade. The reason I'm excited about this is you cannot just boot these up into HD because they'll look god-awful. They're PS1 games. So it'll be nice to see Crash Bandicoot painted with a nice, fresh HD flick of paint.
Unreal 4 engine. Imagine that.
Oh, it'll be nice. Hopefully this means we're getting proper Crash back. I can't imagine they're redoing 1 to 3 if they don't plan to make a proper 4.
Was Ratchet & Clank successful? The new one?
You know what, I don't know. It was released quite cheap, so I don't think they ever expected big things from it. I know the movie didn't do so well, which the game was kind of brought out to release alongside, but I don't think it did hugely well.
It makes me wonder if they're testing Crash with the old ones to see if it warrants bringing out a new one.
I think they'll bring out a new one. It's so nostalgic for a lot of people. The first game a lot of people played back in the PS1 days. I mean, I didn't even play them back then. I was a Sega boy, so... You know, it's not a big part of my childhood or anything, but I am glad to see it back. It's nice to see platform games. And, you know, I can appreciate they're good games. They're about 20 quid each to pick up now because they're kind of considered classics, so you can't get hold of them easily. So to be able to play those games again, looking lovely and all together, I'm in on that. Whatever, I'll pay 40 quid for that.
Yeah.
But there's not much to say about it because we didn't see it. And then Sony went on a big tirade of talking about VR, and with that, we got the announcement of Resident Evil 7.
Oh, I forgot about
that. Were you here when we played the demo?
Yeah.
Yes. We played it together, didn't we?
You threw the
we
controller
pressed the pad because it was very scary. But I thought it was really good. I can't imagine playing it in VR. I think I'd sell it myself.
I'd love to play it in VR.
Just right. I'm just.
However, oh no, go on.
I'm just going to put this out to you. Imagine you having that headset on. You're very scared, right?
Yeah.
Very scared. Everyone around you is laughing because they can't see why you're just sat in the middle of a room on your own screaming. That is my VR fear right there. That's why I don't want VR, because what an idiot I'll look. The only problem with VR is, right, I've looked at the launch titles for VR for PlayStation. They're awful. They all feel like tech demos, like when the Move came out. Yeah. It's that level of game. But they announced some stuff that interests me. They showed, well, they didn't show, and this is the problem again. They talked about a Batman VR game. They talked about Star Wars for VR, but whether or not that's just an expansion for Battlefront, I don't know. It did say it was Battlefront, but is it a new one? Is it just an extra bit of Battlefront? And whilst the big names are there with things like Resident Evil, we're still not seeing how VR pans out. And when those games aren't there at launch, I don't think there's enough for me to jump on board yet. However, for the first time, they announced games for VR that made me think, oh, I'm interested. Not day one, but the idea of purchasing a VR didn't seem so crazy to me when I started hearing games that are part of a big series or that I'm a fan of actually working on the damn thing. How are you in the VR world?
It tickles me. I'd quite like a VR. However, I'm still under the impression that the VR technology at the moment is only at the level of dating sim.
That sounds fine.
Which, yeah, it's fine for dating sim. I only say that because, I mean, when you mentioned Batman and things like that and Resident Evil, for me, the full VR experience, if a ghost jumps out in front of you or if someone hits you on the head in Batman...
Yeah. You're going to get a disconnect because...
as soon as someone hits you on the head in the game, you'll think, oh, hang on a minute, I didn't feel that, and then you'll lose it.
You'll work quite nicely. I don't know how this will work, but say you're playing Batman and someone hits you on the head. What probably will work is if the screen moves with your head, right? If it suddenly moves without your head, it'll be really disorientating, and that could probably work in the screen's favour.
Emotion.
Or if you're looking straight forward and suddenly you're getting like a whack over the back of your head, and the screen suddenly looks down at the floor, and then you're having to pull it back together, it will feel like you've been disorientated, and that could work. However, I don't know how a VR Batman works, because Batman just runs around punching fuckers. He doesn't shoot anyone, or I don't understand what a VR Batman game's going to do, unless you're just driving around in the Batmobile or something. But it's certainly not a game. When I heard VR, I thought, God, a Batman game would be good in VR. But then Resident Evil's gone all first person. I assume Batman's going to be first person, but what are you going to do in VR Batman? I don't understand. They didn't show me, so I don't know. So again, part of the problem, I'm interested in the idea of a VR Batman game, but don't just tell me it exists. Show me what it will be.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Star Wars, they just announced the name, but they just showed footage of you sat in an X-Wing fighting off TIE fighters.
See, that's
I'm into
not so
that.
bad.
That's good. That's what I want to do. I'd love to play that. And the idea of being sat stationary with just your head moving around, when your body's not moving, and certainly, like you say, nothing could hit you or shake you, will feel quite immersive, I reckon. Sort of sat looking around the cockpit, flying about. That could be awesome. But Batman's one where the name is good, but I've never made that connection of why I'd want that in VR, and they certainly gave me no reason to. But I don't know. We'll talk VR again in a bit, because Sony Ubisoft had a couple of VR games, so maybe we can talk about VR in general.
Yeah, it's overall looking good, but not quite at the point of why.
It's interesting, but certainly, and I know there's a VR game that Ubisoft announced that you're into, but I think we both kind of settled on the fact that it didn't look as good as it should have done. But we'll get to that. So anyway, Sony's final big announcement that I can remember. If we've missed any of them, I apologise. We are just kind of reeling these off from what we remember of the conferences. But SpiderMan, I think is also for VR, but PS4 game SpiderMan by the guys who did Ratchet and Clank and Sunset Overdrive. I'm totally up for that.
It did look pretty good.
I'm a big Spider-Man fan. It's one of my favourite superheroes when I was a kid. Not mad into the comics or anything these days. I don't stay on top of Spider-Man's current events. But a good video game Spider-Man is something I've wanted since we got a good video game Batman. I think it could be awesome. We haven't had a decent Spider-Man game since Spider-Man 2, the movie game, from a while back.
Was that on the Dreamcast?
No, it was
PS2?
PS2, GameCube, Xbox. And that was good. It was a movie tie-in, so it felt a bit empty and not much to do. But the concept was great of just swinging around New York.
I remember that one now, yeah.
So this could be awesome. I mean, hell, if you're going to give the Sunset Overdrive guys, who've made a great superhero game with Sunset Overdrive, the ability to give a proper superhero a run, then I'm up for that. I think that's a great team to give it to. So here's hoping. Again, we didn't see a huge amount with it, but the announcement of it is quite big. It's exclusive to PlayStation. I assume that's because Sony Pictures have the Spider-Man license and stuff like that. So
yeah,
there's obviously something going on there. But yeah, good to see. A good team behind it. And finally, I think a superhero game that isn't Batman, that is worth looking forward to, will probably be pretty good. And I think that wraps up Sony, really. They went on to show Days Gone again, but we've been through that. So what do you think of Sony this year? We were way off with our predictions this year for Sony. I guessed Crash Bandicoot, so I guess that was one. What about you?
I can't remember what I guessed. I've got them here.
Yeah, you said Shenmue, the forklift truck. I think you were way off with Sony. Well, you look up your predictions.
Yeah, Monster Hunter and Plus updates.
None of those.
Yeah. However, as much as I respect Sony for them doing very well at the moment, I didn't necessarily... Well, not necessarily not like, but they did make a few digs at Xbox and Microsoft.
Yeah,
a few... They weren't even just oh, lol sort of things. It was
digs that aren't going to pay off either.
Yeah,
because they
there was no point to them.
And they said things like, oh, we only have one console, so it's a one infrastructure sort of thing. Like, yeah, but everyone knows you're making a new one. There's that 4K one that they've basically announced exists. So, who knows?
And to slate Phil Spencer for his T-shirts. I don't like that, because
no,
I like
that wasn't slating Phil Spencer.
Was it not?
The guy said not just wearing a T-shirt. Last year when he came on stage, he was wearing a Crash Bandicoot T-shirt.
Oh, right.
And people thought he was going to announce something and didn't. So I think that it wasn't a dig at
I thought he was having a go at
old lovely Phil.
Yeah,
Unky Phil.
I respect Phil for his T-shirts.
He's good T-shirts. Except this year when he dick teased you with that original Xbox T-shirt. Right, so who was your favourite out of the two, Microsoft or Sony?
I'm going to say Sony.
Me too.
Just because of Horizon and the new Heavy Rain game.
I think for me, Microsoft showed some games that I'm actually really into, but they didn't show enough of what I want to see. So Sea of Thieves, whilst it looks great, they didn't show me what you do in that game. It just showed me the concept, which I like, but certainly not enough to sort of really get the feel of what you're doing. Sony this year did a really good job of showing you gameplay of games and it feeling like, okay, I understand this experience, I understand what you're going to do, except when it came to VR, which they showed nothing. But overall, I think both were excellent this year, Microsoft and Sony. No surprises really from either of them. And the big surprises came from other companies like Resident Evil and Dead Rising, are both Capcom games. They're not actually by those companies. Detroit got announced a while back, but we hadn't really seen any gameplay of it. So, like, a lot of expected stuff, but maybe a few new twists, like the way they've taken God of War. I think decent stuff from both. But yeah, I'd say Sony was probably slightly stronger.
Good overall.
Yeah, I think
both companies.
Both were good. Neither of them were as good as they were last year. Like, because we got Crackdown and Sea of Thieves announced last year, and this year we only saw one of them again. So, I don't know. Good.
Sony only wins it for me because they've got two of the games that pique my interest most.
Yeah, and I think...
So I guess it's just a preference of what games you like means which conference you would have thought would be better. But overall, I think they were both kind of on par with each other this year.
I think if you own one of those two boxes, you've got something to be excited about. I think the only thing that differentiates the two for me is a lot of Microsoft's Xbox future is obviously in this new machine, whereas Sony made it feel this year like you already own the machine that matters, which I kind of appreciate. But we'll see. Next year they're probably going to announce their 4K PlayStation, so who knows. So, we'll move on to the big N, Nintendo, who this year did not have a conference.
Yeah, we're all kind of felt... You were kind of left a bit, well, what do we do now, sort of thing.
So, for those that don't know, Nintendo just did a Treehouse this year, which is basically them playing the games. They played a lot of Pokemon, a lot of Zelda, and then they announced a few little things. And they showed the Pokemon Go, and then they showed some Monster Hunter, I believe, and is it called Beyond Oasis, I think it is, which is that new RPG.
Is it 3DS one?
Yeah, which looks nice. They also gave a date to Beat the Beat Rhythm Paradise, or Rhythm Heaven, which is out now in America, or out in October over here, which is annoying, but I'm glad we're getting it. Now, Nintendo were the biggest disappointment for me this year.
Yeah.
However, weirdly, they only showed Zelda, and they were my biggest disappointment. However, Zelda is easily my game of the show.
Yeah,
and the game I'm looking forward to most.
It's just the way they presented everything that let them down.
I think you can show too much of something. I think Zelda looks incredible, but you could show me that 2-minute trailer and I would still feel exactly the same about this new Zelda. I think it looks amazing. I don't want to see too much of it because then it'll be spoiled for me. I want it to be a big surprise, to the point that we didn't watch all of it because we thought we were just going to get loads of it spoiled. I know they didn't show any story or anything like that, but I feel when they've announced that this world is really quite empty and barren and it's about you exploring it, like, I don't even believe there are towns in this game. So the exploration of this world is surely going to be what the whole game is about, and the surprise. I don't want to see it then. I want that to be a surprise for me. Right, let's talk about EA, because I think they're one of the ones we can rattle through quickest, because EA surprised us 0% this year with basically no announcements. There was a small indie game which they tried to capture the feel of when they announced Unravel. I can't remember the name of it, but it looked quite nice. It was like a 3D platformer, but it felt so much like they were trying to recapture that oh, look at this quirky indie game that we're really pushing, and I don't know, it didn't feel like it was quite as cool
authentic,
looking as Unravel. And then they went on to talk about FIFA having a story mode, which, is fine if you like FIFA, but otherwise it felt just like another FIFA game.
That's the thing with EA. EA for me is always EA Sports. It's in the game.
Yeah, it was this year.
So I always forget that they do other games.
And then they showed Titanfall 2, which is now on PlayStation as well as Xbox. But I think they've had their robot-based futuristic shooter Thunder stolen by Call of Duty this year, because they're used to doing a big action-packed campaign.
If anyone's going to do FPS good, it's the Call of Duty guys.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of how you feel about Call of Duty...
Isn't it 2 teams that do Call of Duty? Don't they pass the baton every year or something?
Well, this is where it gets a bit strange. The guys who make Titanfall are a lot of the staff who used to make Call of Duty before they formed their own studio. But it's kind of weird that when they go, we're going to make a campaign in this year's Titanfall, is the same year that Call of Duty are going, we're doing a futuristic robot space campaign as well. So it's really odd. The thing is, the Call of Duty name is already so huge that people will just go for Call of Duty over Titanfall, and I hope Titanfall's good, but I just don't see it really being that high on many people's lists.
Could be the last Titanfall, maybe.
Maybe. I guess it's all or nothing now, because it's on PS4 as well, so if it doesn't do that well this time, they've got nothing to blame. And then, talking of space stuff, they showed Mass Effect, or rather, they showed them making Mass Effect, but didn't really show much gameplay of Mass Effect, and certainly didn't fill me with any hope that it's coming next year.
See, again, I didn't know that was EA. I know it's obviously BioWare that make
they
it.
Get all their games published through EA, I think.
I think BioWare need to set up on their own, like Bethesda.
Well, that'd be good. But it won't happen.
Or team up with Bethesda.
And then they basically said, again, sci-fi theme here, they are making Star Wars games, and then proceeded to show us none. They just told us they were, and showed, again, people making games. And then they showed Battlefield 1, and they did a big Battlefield 1 thing after the conference where you could watch them playing lots of Battlefield 1, which, for a game that's supposed to be World War One, a game about sitting in trenches, basically rotting, looked a lot like a big action movie. I don't think it captures the authentic World War One experience. I think if I had been EA or DICE, I wouldn't have set it at World War One. I would have done it as an alternate future, or an alternate past look at World War One, because I think you can almost be quite offensive with World War One. It was a very wasteful war when no one really. There were no heroes for World War One. Just a lot of people getting, very ill in trenches and fighting over pretty much nothing. But video games, eh?
Yeah. Video games.
And that was pretty much all they showed. They didn't even really show Madden this year, did they? Or is that out? I don't know.
It's, again, sports. We don't do
all
sports.
Sports. Just sports, really.
Sports.
Right.
And a bit of shooting.
We're saying it was all sports. They showed FIFA. That's really it. But they just didn't show anything new or exciting, really. I mean, for all I've said about Battlefield 1, I still think it's going to be a good game. I think Battlefield's always good. I just don't think there was much taste in going for World War 1. But I didn't need to see Battlefield 1.
It's not even called World War 1, so they could have got away from it, you say, by just
an alternate history.
1. This is not UK. This is not the world. It's
an alternate history version of World War 1. So you can have all the cool things like Zeppelins and stuff like that, but without saying that this is supposed to be World War 1, where, lots of people slowly trunched it through trenches. But it looked like action movie, biplanes shooting down Zeppelins, and I'm sure it'll be good. But just not very World War 1. But yeah, EA, there's not really much to say about them. They showed us exactly what I'd expect from EA, just didn't really surprise us in any way.
Yeah.
Again, we've said they're all sports. They showed us one sports game, but then it still felt like that. It felt like there was no surprise there from EA. It felt like going in, you knew what you were going to get, and they delivered on the fact that there was nothing to announce. So let's swiftly move on, because we're not the biggest EA fans, and not for any fault of them. It's just that we would like to see Skate 4, maybe Fight Night. Some of the bigger EA franchises come back, like The Sims, anything. There's plenty of big EA names that we're into, but nothing.
I would have liked to see Sims come to PS4.
Yeah,
just
well, that was
because
one of your predictions,
it's
wasn't it?
easier to access my PS4 than the PC. So.
Well, I thought Fight Night was almost a certain, because there hasn't been one this gen, and it was really popular. So I don't know why you'd stop making them. So who was next? Ubi? I think it was Ubi. You got them all listed.
I've got them all listed. It was Bethesda.
Oh, it was Bethesda, okay.
Ubi came after Microsoft.
Bethesda opened up with Quake Champions, which looked very good.
Yeah. Do you think that's obviously in the success of Doom? Or
Yeah, I think it's an odd one that they've gone PC only. Because I understand that, your pro Quake players are going to want it super Twitch-based, but if your console players are all at an equal level in terms of, how fast they can respond with a controller, just give them their own version of Quake. They can only respond as fast as each other. The playing field remains level. I don't see why we wouldn't get a Quake version on the consoles, but maybe we will in the future. Maybe they're just concentrating on the PC. But it felt like after the success of Doom, which was really huge on the consoles, they'd replicate that by going, and here's Quake. But nice to see Quake come back, but maybe not in the way I'd want it to. I'd like to see it on the...
Maybe it'll come... Did they say it was exclusive forever, or do you think maybe they'll port it at some point?
I think it could at some point, maybe. Maybe it'll depend on the success of it. Maybe they're not throwing that much money at Quake, and they're just going to see how it does.
It's easier to make for PC, and then if it's successful on PC, here's the console edition.
And I think we should talk about, before we go into Dishonored, which we saw last year, they showed us Prey, which was kind of heavily rumoured was going to be back, but didn't look anything like the old Prey game, which was about some sort of Native American going through some alien ships and portals. This looked like a sci-fi city. Like, I don't know, it was almost like Groundhog Day, wasn't it? Like, time was repeating, is that right? I can't remember. I'm sure it had like a time mechanic to it where the guy was repeating the same stuff again and again.
I can't remember.
But it certainly looks nothing like Prey. And
again, another total reboot.
Yeah.
Which I think you were saying, like, if they were to do a Prey 2, because Prey 1 was so old.
Yeah, who would be asking for it at this stage? It felt like the right thing to do would be reboot it, but then, did they need the name Prey? This doesn't look like Prey at all.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It felt like the name was just there so they could say, hey, we've brought back Prey. But it didn't look like it. It looked like a totally new game. Like, if that game had a totally different title, I wouldn't have thought...
You wouldn't have connected it to Prey.
That would have been Prey. Yeah, you know. But it looked good, but I didn't see that being what they would make as a new Prey. What else? Dishonored 2. That was kind of their big focus this year, wasn't it? They showed a lot of that. Looks really good.
I do like Dishonored. I think I only got about halfway through the first one, though, because, again, it did that thing of something else came out, which I then moved on to.
Well, I like that if you buy Dishonored 2 or pre-order it, you get Dishonored, and you can play it. I think that's a really good idea.
Is that for PS4?
Yeah. It comes in the box if you buy the standard version, or if you pre-order it on the store, you can download it.
And play it on the PS4?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh.
So I think that's good.
Because I've got it installed on my PS3. It's just... The PS3 never goes on.
We've got it on PS4, and honestly, they're not that much different. It's 30 frames a second on both machines.
Oh, of course. No, they did a remaster, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same frame rate on both machines. It's just a higher resolution, but the art style's so good anyway that you don't miss much by playing it on PS3. So I think it's worth playing.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't say you necessarily need to play the PS4 version. And then, what else? VR got a bit of a push with Doom VR and... what was the other VR? Oh, Fallout.
Fallout got VR.
Which, I think the idea is great. I just think it may be a little late. Like, if it had launched with VR, it would have been really something. But I think by this stage, those who wanted to play Fallout have at least put a fair bit into it now. So it would have been nice to experience that all new without knowing what was coming. Fully VR would have been cool.
Again, it's that thing for me of Fallout isn't really the game for VR because there's too much walking around.
Yeah, are you thinking there's like a disconnect between the fact your head is moving but your body is not?
It's that for me. I'm totally into VR, but I just, for games where your character is moving but you're not.
Any game where you're sat, whether you're in a car or in a cockpit, I think that really works. But I agree with you. I think it's never going to feel that immersive for me whilst my hands are on a controller, and I feel like they shouldn't be. So, like, I think that's partially what makes a lot of people sick, is if you're telling your body to walk around with a stick, but your body isn't moving, but your head is still controlling how you're seeing things. I can see why that would be really disorientating for people.
You know what I need to bring back?
What's that?
The Power Glove instead of a controller.
Well, it kind of is happening because the PlayStation VR is quite heavily compatible with the Move controllers, I believe. That's why you need the camera for the PlayStation VR, so it can locate where your Move controllers
Again,
are.
that fixes some of the immersivity.
But not your legs.
But not the legs, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. Because again, that would still work for any game where you're sat. So say you're in a computer panel or something. Then moving the VR sticks around to press buttons is certainly better than just using the D-pad.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see how that goes.
I imagine Surgeon Sim VR.
God, that'd probably be easier.
waving your arms around.
What else did they? We got Fallout expansions.
We did, yeah. Which, if anyone's listened to our past podcasts, will know I'm a big fan of the Fallout at the moment.
So, let me just bring these up. We got the Contraptions Workshop.
Yep. Which again seems, I think, comparatively, this is going to be like the Wasteland Workshop, where it doesn't really bring much to the game, but it's more of an add-on for those who've got the pass.
To me, they feel like mods.
In a way, yeah.
Rather than expansions. It feels like someone could have just made these, which I don't have a problem with, but for a season pass item, they don't feel like the thing I would expect. They feel like just a little bonus, which is fine. So you've got a list in here, so you might as well take us through these.
Contraptions, from what I can gather, basically lets you show off your armor, and again, this is aimed at people who are heavily into settlement management.
Yeah.
So if you're not a fan of settlements, you probably won't get any benefit from this at all. So basically, from what I can tell, lets you build conveyor belts, build machines that build items for you.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
And yeah, so you can.
And that's out this month, June 21st.
So it is, yeah. So they've already added the trophies to the
so
network.
You've got an idea of what's coming.
You can see that one at the minute. There's only 3 trophies in it, so
can't be that
tell
big.
It's a small one. The one after that, which I think is July, yeah. So this one coming out in July is the Vault Tech Workshop.
I like the look of this. I'm not big into building the settlements, but I think if I was going to build anything, it would be this.
A vault.
Exactly.
So yeah, this one lets you build full-blown, and from what I've seen on the trailer, I think it is, you can make a vault, which I assume as big as you want. You know, whether you'll have any power constrictions, like you'd need to build so many nuclear generators to power the whole thing, so if you don't have enough power, you can't build out.
You know what would be great? I don't think it's going to happen, but this whole building thing, for me, the reason it doesn't work for me so much is I'm building stuff for myself. And the AI is stupid and gets stuck in it, so I'll build this beautiful looking structure and they'll get stuck on the stairs. If I could build a vault and fill it with shit and get you to try and challenge it, that would be awesome. Like, if I could build a vault, fill it with monsters, and then send you to try and raid the vault, that would be awesome. It's not going to be what they're doing, but that's kind of where I wish this had gone. Like, it feels like a great way to almost add a bit of multiplayer to Fallout, not in an actual play together, but like Mario Maker style. Like, I send you a vault and say, hey, see if you can do this. And if you can, all you have to do is get to the end, and it gives me your time it took you. And then, you know, then you've got a leaderboard sort of system.
And like Mario Maker, if it showed you the weak points where people got through or where most people died on their raid, you know that bit's working, you need to improve defense here, sort of thing.
Yeah, that'd be really good. But I don't think that's what it's about. But I would like that to be.
For me, I guess it's kind of the Minecraft of the Fallout world, if you will.
Yeah, I get that people like it.
Some people play Minecraft just to mess about, whereas other people take it far too seriously and make wonderful constructions. Like, people have built working submarines.
Hey, whatever floats your boat. If you want to dedicate hours to something, then I appreciate it all the way. Totally.
So for the builders, I guess the all this construction stuff is brilliant, because I think I showed you a video of a guy who made on the PS4 as well. It took him God knows how many hours, but like put things on things so he could pick them up, put them through objects they shouldn't have gone in.
Basically glitch things to his advantage so he could build better stuff.
A massive skyscraper.
It was cool. It was really good.
It looked amazing. So yeah, for people like that, I think you're going to get lost for hours playing this. Still
can't make people get fucked up in my vault though.
So for me, because I do quite like building vaults and building settlements, so I think I will get a lot of enjoyment out of that.
Yeah, however, fair enough.
If you don't like building, again, you're not going to get much from it.
See, those two don't really appeal to me much. I'll be into the building a vault, but I'll like slam a few bits down, build a little crappy vault, realise there's nothing I can actually do with it, and probably give up.
Yeah.
But this next one, I'm into.
The next one, Nuka World.
Yes.
When's this one? August. Oh, we got one every month. June, July, August.
That's good.
So what does Nuka World do?
Nuka World looks like a theme park based around the Nuka-Cola license, right? Which is awesome.
I guess it's like, is this going to be like Far Harbor? Maybe not.
I don't think it's going to be that big. I think it's going to be that.
It's going to have like more missions and story-based things to it.
Yeah, I think so. I'm into that. I think it's nice that they're doing something with, because you've got all the Nuka-Cola branding around the world. The idea has got to be that was once a huge company. So I like the fact you're going to get to visit something from the sort of mythos of the game. I think that's awesome.
So this is the one I'm least knowledgeable on, so I've just had a quick skim of it there. So it says you take a trip to Nuka World, a vast amusement park.
Ooh, vast.
It's now a lawless city of raiders.
Yes.
So it's an all-new region, apparently. With an open wasteland, park zones, safari adventure, Dry Rock Gulch, Kiddie Kingdom, and the Galactic Zone.
Yes, see, I'm in. This sounds good.
So there's new quests, raiders, weapons, creatures, and more.
Well, how much more?
Who knows?
I guess we'll find out in August.
Now, I'd like, if there's new additions to this, as well as Far Harbor, which I've not actually had a look at yet, if all the items you get in these new expansions, can you use them to build in your settlements? Can I build a Nuka World roller coaster in one of my settlements?
In your vault?
To put Preston on and ram him into a wall. So I don't have to go and look after any more settlements.
I think he'd still message you, even if he's on a roller coaster.
Stazzy's whizzing by. Hey, there's a new settlement over here.
I need your help.
I've seen another one over here.
I think that's pretty much it for Bethesda then.
Yeah.
A lot of Fallout, a lot of Dishonored, some good stuff. I'm going to say the same thing I've said about most people's. Not a huge amount of surprises. Prey was quite surprising.
Ooh, one we've missed.
Oh, go on.
Skyrim HD.
Yeah. No, that did look good. I think the problem here, and the reason there wasn't a lot of surprises, is a lot leaked this year.
I was trying not to look at it, but you'd just be happily scrolling through Facebook and
you'd
then
see someone.
Ugh.
So, like, Prey was heavily rumoured. So, although that is a big surprise, and, it's not what we expected, the term Prey was kicking around. We knew a Prey was going to happen. Same with Skyrim HD. Like, I was hoping for a full trilogy of what are they? We've got Oblivion, Skyrim, and what was the one before Oblivion? Morrowind. I thought those done in the Skyrim engine would have been a cool thing to slap on a disc, charge 50 quid for, and yeah, I'm happy. But I'll buy this one anyway. But my worry is, like I said to you when they showed it off, it looks way nicer. Now, the problem with console Skyrim is it's never been a game that performed well. Neither has Fallout 4. They've both had performance issues. Don't try and tart up the graphics until you can get it running lovely. Just slap Skyrim on the PS4, 1080p, make it run well. Don't worry about new god beams or whatever it was talking about for the new particle effects. Just make it run well. That's all I'm asking. It's going to run about 5 frames a second but look amazing.
I don't mind that, because I
kind of like part of it by now.
It shouldn't be. Like I think you've said once before that you shouldn't expect a game to be buggy or glitchy.
But they are. Always.
And I have a soft spot for it because I do enjoy when a glitch happens. You can sit and watch it for half an hour and not move and just laugh.
Half an hour? How amused are you by a simple glitch?
Very.
Right, rolling on. Ubi. Ubi or not Ubi?
Oh.
Not Ubi. God, I find these conferences cringeworthy.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of the presenting style of Aisha Tyler. She's better than Mr. Caffeine.
Mr. Caffeine?
He's the guy that kept going at the years beforehand. But yeah, I find that over enthusiastic, fake enthusiasm just it really makes me cringe.
I think she's become more of a publicity stunt now because the internet reacts so badly to her. I think Ubisoft must go, hey.
Some people love her. Some people really like her.
Gets them talking about us.
All the power to them. If they think she's funny, fair play to them. I think she's really cringeworthy, but that's not the main problem with Ubisoft this year. The main problem with Ubisoft is they didn't show anything exciting again.
Watch Dogs 2.
Exactly. Watch Dogs 2 looks like crap Watch Dogs. Alright, my problem with the original Watch Dogs was that it was too much of a GTA clone, and the idea of the hacking stuff was just almost QTE style. Press a button here and you can hack this object. Didn't feel like hacking. Not that I'm a hacker, I wouldn't know first thing to do. But it never gave you that impression that you're a cool hacker and you could do all this cool stuff. It just felt like you're a man with a gun who also has a magic phone.
Yeah.
That was what Watch Dogs was. Watch Dogs 2 looks like you are a man with a gun. Also, you do have a magic phone, but don't worry about it. Just shoot everything. That is it. All the trailers look really.
And now you can parkour off walls and run everywhere.
It looks awful. It just looks so explosive, and I would have gone the opposite direction for Watch Dogs. I would have gone less gunplay, more on the importance of hacking stuff.
Yeah.
So if you need to do something, you have to hack your way through it. If you need to get somewhere, if you need to get through a building that's heavily armed, you have to hack the lights and sneak through. Make it about the hacking, or just forget about the hacking and make it GTA with a magic phone, because that's what they've done. And then they announced a Watch Dogs movie, so it was a good year for me at Ubisoft. They didn't show anything of it, of course.
Well, as well as the Assassin's Creed movie,
which I think we both agreed looks utter rubbish.
Yeah.
My biggest surprise for Ubi, and this is not a good surprise, was that they announced a new Just Dance. And that's not me being sarcastic, as in, oh, what a surprise, a new Just Dance. As in, who cares about Just Dance now? Is anyone buying those things still?
I don't know. Surely not.
How do you play that on the PS4? Do you use a Move controller?
Maybe they've just got rid of the cameras now. It's just
have a dance.
Get a sweat going, have a dance.
It didn't look awful. They didn't show anything of it. They had people dancing around the stage, but
maybe that's how you play it. You've got to change your living room into a stage. Invite all your friends round and make a big song and dance about it.
Right, let's just burn through these. Ghost Recon, to be honest, that looked good.
It does look good, yeah.
It looks like a big open world co-op action adventure. I guess there's a bit of stealth there, but it looked more action based.
Presented very poorly.
This is my problem. Presented by people pretending to play the game who don't talk like people pretending the game. Like, whoa, look over there. What's he doing? Oh, I hope they don't spot me. No one talks like that playing the game. It's like, oh god, there's someone here. Oh, run away. Oh, who set that alarm off? No one's talking tactics and whispering to each other.
Yeah.
I just find, again, like the presentation style. I'm stuttering here because I'm so angry. Like the presentation style itself, just really cringeworthy.
The best one of all the presentations this year was Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, because even though I think that was hammed up, it felt like the sort of things you would say playing the game. And
that to me sells it more, because you think, oh yeah, that's what
it's
me
like.
And my mates are like.
Yeah, whereas this felt like I don't actually talk like a soldier when I'm playing a soldier in a video game.
Hey, Charlie's Foxtrot, there's a tango over there.
Pretty much exactly what it meant, and I don't understand any of it. So, yeah, I don't know. I like the idea of the game. It looked fun. They should have just had people either not talking or just make it more realistic, as in have them saying, oh, I need someone to help me over here, or can you see any of them? Not, oh, they've got 4 over there and you won't believe what he's doing to this guy. It is a mess in here, or whatever that guy was saying. Like,
it should have ended like saying, oh, the guy's getting away in a car, and like, don't worry, I've got this covered, and then the helicopter just comes flying over. Plow into it, because that's what you do.
Yeah, exactly. Make it look like
the helicopter into it.
You've got if you're trying to sell it on, this is the game, you've also got to sell it on, these are people playing it. And Ubisoft do a terrible job of that. Nobody plays Ubisoft games like Ubisoft say you do. What else did they have? South Park looked great. We knew that was going to look great. It looks just like the last one. It looks very funny. Matt Stone and Trey Parker were very funny with their send-up of... what's his name? Oh, God. The gay fish from South Park.
Gay fish? Kanye West.
We had a big send-up of his game and his mum going to heaven. Looked good. South Park looked great. Probably the highlight of Bethesda's conference was those guys, because they don't talk bullshit. They actually sound like...
Bethesda?
Sorry, Ubisoft. Yeah, they sound like they know what they're talking about. They sound genuine. What else did they have?
Who else? Oh, on the dig of Kanye's, I believe at last year's E3, Kanye West wanted to see No Man's Sky.
Yes.
And then Sean Murray was basically, no, I've got more important people to see.
Good.
Like, yes.
There are far more important people than Kanye West. Unless you ask Kanye West.
Then it's obviously no one more important than him and his mum.
No. And his mum's on an important trip to heaven. What else did they show? Oh, VR. Now, this is where
everyone's shown a bit of VR this year, haven't they, apart from Nintendo?
Yeah, well, Nintendo didn't show anything. This is where you geeked out a bit, but then I think in hindsight...
I'm still geeking out, because for me, I don't care about graphics. Like a game,
I don't care about graphics.
A game could look like a PS1 game for me.
That's not the problem here. Let's say we're talking about Star Trek VR.
Yeah.
Now, my problem with this game wasn't the graphics. It's that it looked boring. And I know that you're about to say the panels and stuff in the game are accurate or whatever.
But for me, as a perspective sort of thing, for me, I grew up, my childhood was spent watching Star Trek.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So
Star Trek's about like exploration and stuff though, right? This looked like about sitting at a console and not seeing anything happen.
They didn't really show what it probably could potentially do.
But every time it did cut to gameplay, it looked boring. It was someone sat at a panel without really seeing what's going on. It looked like a boring version of the phone game Space Team. You know, where it just flashes things at you and you've all got to do stuff. And while I think that could be great, I don't think this did it justice. I think this could have worked as a mobile phone game where you all just sit around with a phone and can talk to each other. It doesn't look like, to me, you need a VR setup for this game, just a telephone with some buttons on it.
Yeah.
Because they weren't making the most of you could look around the environment. Because if you could look around the environment but you have to just look at one panel, why am I looking around the environment? Just give me that panel. It just didn't look, I don't know, engrossing enough for me.
I think it's more of a fan service, I think, for people who have loved Star Trek over the years.
Yeah.
You now get to sit on the bridge of, hopefully, the Enterprise, not just some made-up...
See, I would prefer it to be made up, because you're not going to have any of the real captains with you, and you're not going to, and then you could have as many panels as you want to have to play with, because it could be a new starship. It could be something totally new, just set in that universe, and therefore you can make it more interesting. But I don't know, I guess it's early. It didn't look very finished, it looked very basic. I'd imagine more is going to come.
I hope they make it good, because I would love to navigate a Starfleet ship through space. That is my dream.
But is it going to be as good as No Man's Sky?
Well, yes and no.
No,
yes,
the
because
just
it's
no.
Well, yes, because it's got the name Star Trek, and no, but because it doesn't have as many planets.
You
as
have
No
got
Man's
so
Sky.
many Star Trek games, and they're all terrible. So why is this going to be any different?
Because I actually get to sit on the bridge.
You don't have a VR headset.
I don't yet.
If you buy a VR headset just for this game, I'm going to be disappointed. I don't mind you buying a VR headset, but if you buy one the day this game comes out just to play this game, I'm going to be very sad.
What would you be more sad at me buying? A VR headset for Star Trek or Sonic and the Black Knight?
Both equal. Right, and then Ubisoft rounded off with Steep, which is the big...
a big steep mountain.
Yeah, it's extreme sports game. I love extreme sports games. I love snowboarding stuff. I think it's a good video game thing to do, which hasn't been done in a while. We haven't had a good video game extreme sports snowboarding or anything for some time. But I don't really know what to make of this one.
Looks alright, I suppose.
I just don't really get it yet, because they're saying you could just slide down the mountain and then show your route to a friend, and they could then.
Is it like trying to make a sandbox snowboarding game?
I think so.
Like, here's what I've done. Show me what you can do.
My problem with it was the end. They showed lots of people crashing, and it looked like a bit silly, but it felt disjointed to the rest of the game, which didn't look very silly. I kind of think you got to go one way or the other. I think it could be great. I think an idea of a sort of almost massively multiplayer extreme sports game with you and your friends, I like that. But they didn't show enough to convince me that it's going to be great. Just it's going to be a game. So I'm hoping we get something of it.
I am going to say, though, I did think when they said extreme sports, I was like, yes, ironing boards.
Extreme ironing.
That would have been amazing.
Well, I think that's everything. We've talked about what got announced.
Yeah.
We've talked a little about what we thought of each one. So overall, what are your feelings of E3 2016?
Overall, it's kind of... meh.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit underwhelmed, but at the same time, I'm not too disappointed.
We got some good stuff. My thing is we just didn't get any big surprises. There were a few little things here and there, and I know some games got announced that we didn't know of, but nothing felt really unexpected.
Yeah.
Like last year, I guess, spoiled us with Shenmue.
I think that's it for us. We're tainted now. Our E3, that was our E3 pinnacle, the finest moment.
But you know what? If they had shown Crash Bandicoot this year, rather than just announced it, and they had shown Crackdown 3 this year, I would have probably been as excited, because they're games I want to see what they do with, and I think there are games coming out that I would like to see and we still don't know much about. I think everyone played it a little safe. Like Microsoft coming out and announcing the Scorpio was quite brave of them, but when they had nothing to show, it was pointless. It was just them saying, we have a new machine, but here's a different new machine you can buy now. It just felt a bit disjointed. Like the Scorpio thing is probably going to be great, but when we don't know the price, the power, or what it is, it seems silly to talk about it. Like Nintendo have announced the NX and have basically said, we're not talking about it because there's nothing to show. I kind of wish that was the same with the Scorpio. I wish they hadn't had that big ending of people talking about what a great machine it's going to be. If you already know how great it is, show me it. Show me what it can do. Because it's fine to yell specs at me, but people can get so many different things out of specs. You know, look at games on PS4 and PS3. The range from how things look from publisher to publisher is incredibly different. So just by putting more power into a machine doesn't mean Deadly Premonition's going to be better.
Nobby Boy.
Exactly, it's not about that. Show me why the Scorpio is impressive, not just in a spec way, and I'll be more excited. But just to say its name and then have people basically just bum it on stage for a little while.
Maybe they announced it to sort of say, look, it's coming.
Address the rumour.
So they've not hidden it to say, here's an S, and then loads of people buy the S, and then, oh, by the way, here's this one that got rumoured.
Yeah, I can take that. I guess
they're both here.
With the rumours being out there about it as well, I guess it just means that they don't have to worry about those rumours anymore. They've acknowledged it exists. So they've basically said as much as everyone knows of, yeah, we are making another one. I think for me, it was not a bad E3, but mediocre. There wasn't a huge amount of surprises. It was okay. Certainly no last year. And hopefully, next year should be exciting, because we should have a proper look at the Scorpio, the PS4 upgrade. Basically everything we expected this year should be next year now.
Yep.
We should get Crackdown next year. We should see the NX will be out, so we should be seeing the games coming to NX.
We should also see Ryo Hazuki. Yu Suzuki drive his forklift to show us some lovely footage, some gameplay footage.
Shenmue 3.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
Or Shenmue 1 and 2 HD. Maybe.
All three. Super HD collector's bundle.
How upset would you be if they announced a big collector's Shenmue 3 with 1 and 2 after you've spent £500 on Shenmue 3's Kickstarter? Dollars, sorry, 380 quid on Shenmue 3's Kickstarter.
I'd hope that Yu Suzuki would say, here, have it free.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't think he will.
He might say, anyone who kickstarted over a certain amount can get 1 and 2 included in their bundle.
That'd be nice.
Will be lovely.
But it won't happen.
It's not going to happen.
I guess this wraps up our E3 podcast.
Yeah.
Anything else to talk about?
No, I can think of.
So overall, both of us?
Good, but not great.
Yeah, it was okay. I'm glad we watched it.
Yeah.
I'm happy about some of the games coming out. I would have liked to have seen more out this year, but that's kind of par for the course of E3, isn't it? How many times did we get shown The Last Guardian before it's finally got a date? So I want to wrap it up there?
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
I can think of, no. Happy.
Good.
Happy, everything's good in gaming.
Yeah. Except for Ubisoft.
Yeah.
And EA.
Yeah.
And the Scorpio.
Yeah. And Nintendo.
God, hopefully we'll get the NX soon to cheer us up. Yeah, alright, we'll leave it there. So thanks for listening. This was just our rundown of what we saw at E3. You'll probably be aware of most of it. You've probably almost certainly seen it all yourself, but more just our take on it.
Yeah, if you'd like an outsider's perspective to compare to your own. Yeah,
if you'd like to hear from two nobodies who don't have any association with the game industry, then not just your friends, then why not have a listen to us ranting for an hour and a half or whatever this has been.
If you agree or disagree with anything,
let us know.
If you're watching on YouTube, give us some comments.
Yeah, let us know what you expected, what you enjoyed, and what you were disappointed with. Maybe you're totally sold on the Scorpio. Maybe you were for an Xbox S.
Yeah.
Maybe you thought that Zelda being on for 2 solid days was just what you wanted. I mean, I know some people did. Some people seem really big into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just our take. And thanks for listening. And next time we have a podcast, we'll be back to the normal, positive, chirpy, actually just talking about what we're playing, and what we've been watching, and hopefully a bit less sad and morose than two guys a little bit bitter that E3 wasn't as good as when Shenmue got announced.
That's all life's going to be until Shenmue 3 comes out, and then we can move on with our lives.
God. What if it's shit?
Don't say that.
It won't be.
No, because then we get to wait however many years for Shenmue 4.
E3 2018.
No, E3 2050.
God, be dead by then. Okay, before you all get up in our faces, we've realised we forgot to mention Death Stranding at the Sony conference, which is Hideo Kojima's new game. Look good, yeah?
Yeah, did.
Yeah? You understand what's going on?
Not really, no.
No? Nothing at all?
Nope.
Some sort of baby?
Baby, oil, fish, flying men.
Looks alright though, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, bye!